When you hear the word bounty in relation to football, you probably think about Bountygate, the 2012 scandal involving the New Orleans Saints. It was revealed that Saints defensive coordinator Greg Williams created a bounty program which incentivized his players to injure players on opposing teams. The scandal sent shockwaves throughout the NFL, and harsh punishments were handed down on those involved. But what if I told you there was another bounty scandal? One you've probably never heard of if you're a younger football fan. In 1989, longtime rivals the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles would get caught up in what's infamously known as the Bounty Bowl. There were big hits, threats, shots fired in the media, and best of all, snowballs. This is the story of arguably the most important game in the history of the Eagles-Cowboys rivalry. This is the story of the Bounty Bowl. The Cowboys-Eagles rivalry goes all the way back to 1960. Other than the 1970s when Dallas clearly had the upper hand, the rivalry was competitive all the way through the 1980s. Things would really intensify in 1986 when the great Buddy Ryan was hired as the next head coach of the Eagles. In 1987, Philly and Dallas split the season series, but it was far from your ordinary series split. The head coaches of both teams would accuse one another of running up the score. In the first meeting, the Cowboys stomped the Eagles 41-22. Late in the game, Cowboys coach Tom Landry put in his starters, even though the game was already decided, and the Eagles were using replacement players due to the ongoing NFL players' strike. This irked Eagles coach Buddy Ryan, and he vowed to get revenge. So in the second meeting just a few weeks later, Philly went on to beat Dallas 37-20, and at the very end of the game, Philly did a fake kneel down to try and run up the score. An unforgettable sequence ensued.
A victory here today over Dallas certainly will only improve that. Now Cunningham's going to throw it to Cook, and it is a flag down on the incompletion in the end zone. 2 seconds remain on the clock. Francis had the coverage for the Cowboys, and the Eagles will have the ball at the 1.
If there wasn't bad blood before, there's going to be bad blood now.
Fires.
You know, I've never seen a football game where one coach doesn't acknowledge another coach at the end of a game. You know, where they either wave to one another or walk across the field. Tom Landry heading right for the locker room. Buddy Ryan heading right for the locker room.
All of this gives you an idea of the bad blood that existed between Philadelphia and Dallas. And that brings us to 1989. 1989 was a transition year for the Cowboys. Legendary coach Tom Landry was no longer on the sidelines, and star running back Herschel Walker would be traded by week 6. Dallas was also starting a rookie quarterback by the name of Troy Aikman. All of this transition led to a dismal 1-15 record. The Eagles, on the other hand, were continuing to trend upwards. They would finish with 11 wins and qualify for the playoffs for the second straight season. But despite the disparity between the two teams, both matchups in 1989 resulted in some very memorable football games. And that brings us to the main topic of this video, the Bounty Bowl. The Bounty Bowl actually consists of 2 games, referred to as Bounty Bowl 1 and Bounty Bowl 2. The first meeting occurred in Week 12 on Thanksgiving Day. The 1-10 Cowboys hosted the 7-4 Eagles in a game that had nothing on the line except pride. The game itself was never really competitive, and the Eagles made easy work of the Cowboys 27-0. But the extracurricular activities are what make this game memorable. The first incident took place in the first half. After the play was whistled dead, Eagles linebacker Britt Hager came in and took a shot at Troy Aikman. Aikman didn't appreciate it, and he let it be known. This led to a giant scuffle where we nearly had an all-out brawl. When the dust settled, Eagles defensive tackle Mike Pitts was ejected from the game for his antics in the pileup. But I want you to remember the late hit on Aikman. The next incident took place at the start of the second half. The Cowboys kicked off to start the third quarter, and the following sequence occurred.
Then Dirtiest will kick it off. 10-0. Eagles lead. So long a fixture here now. Plays on special teams, and Dirtiest is down.
I think he got knocked out. He's going to the wrong sideline. He's groggy.
Well, he was with the Eagles, you know.
I know it, but he's either going over there because he doesn't know where he is, or he's going over there to argue with someone.
I think he sees a galaxy or something.
No, he's hurt.
Yeah, he's down.
Kicking team. We're going to tack it on from the end of the run, 15 yards, and a first down.
The Eagles sent someone after Zendejas. That's probably what he was arguing about. He wasn't going down, but I don't think that he knows what he's arguing about.
I don't think so either, not right now at least.
To Dallas, if it wasn't clear before, it was clear now. Philadelphia was intentionally trying to injure their players at different points throughout the game. In his post-game press conference, Cowboys head coach Jimmy Johnson had some strong words about what had just taken place.
Having bounties on opposing players is not the way it's supposed to be done. We were told last night by a coach, and it was confirmed by two different players. There's a $200 bounty on Luis Zendejas, a $500 bounty on Troy Aikman. That takes away from the integrity of the game. And I would have said something to Buddy, but he wouldn't stand on the field long enough. He put his big fat rear end into the dressing room.
Bounty allegations are serious enough, but when they come from a head coach, it takes it to a whole nother level. Dallas kicker Luis Zendejas echoed the same sentiments. First, Zendejas said that leading up to this game, he received a call from Eagles punter John Telchik warning him that he was the target of a bounty. The bounty was due to Zendejas' history with Buddy Ryan, having been the Eagles kicker prior to joining the Cowboys. Zendejas also revealed that when he played for Philadelphia, he saw Buddy Ryan give out $100 for a weekly big hit. After the game, Zendejas was ticked off, and with emotions running high, he made the following statement. "If I could have stood on my two legs, I would have decked him. We'll play again in 2 weeks. If I see him then, I'll deck him then. Honestly, I will." Of course, he was talking about Buddy Ryan. Buddy Ryan denied the allegations, saying, quote, "Why would I place a bounty on a kicker who can't kick worth a damn?" Now remember, it wasn't just Luis Zendejas. Troy Aikman also took a shot well after a play was whistled dead, and Aikman wound up having to get x-rays to make sure there wasn't any serious damage. According to legend, the bounties on Troy Aikman and Luis Zendejas totaled $700. The alleged bounty on Aikman was $500, and the alleged bounty on Zendejas was $200. Remember, this is 1989. Because of the fallout from this game, the rematch was bound to be a game for the ages, and oddly, because of a scheduling quirk, people didn't have to wait long for the rematch. Dallas and Philadelphia would square off again just 2 weeks later in Week 14. This time, Dallas was traveling to Philadelphia for one of the most anticipated regular season rematches in NFL history. The game was branded as Bounty Bowl 2, and even CBS was advertising the game as that. Imagine that happening today. Fans were even carrying signs about the bounty drama. Bounty Bowl 2 wound up being one of the most chaotic environments an NFL stadium has ever seen. Fans were throwing snowballs at players and even into the announcer's booth.
I got to tell you what a joy it is to come to Philadelphia and stand here and dodge ice balls, not snowballs, but ice balls, about 25 of which have been thrown into the booth in the last 3 minutes. This is really fun.
I'm way back behind the wall here because 3 have already hit me in the top of the head.
Here comes another one flying out. Watch it, David.
It was a surreal scene. NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue decided to attend the game, so he had a front row seat to all the madness. The game itself was not very competitive, just like the first meeting, and the Eagles went on to win by a score of 20-10. But as you can imagine, it was definitely a physical and at times chippy game of football. Troy Aikman and Randall Cunningham both took several hits throughout the game, and there were 9 sacks total. Cowboys punter Mike Saxon was roughed up on a play, resulting in an unnecessary roughness call. The game may not have been Bounty Bowl 1, but when you factor in the atmosphere of the stadium, all the build-up to the game in the media, and the fact that it still was a chippy game of football, Bounty Bowl 2 was still a memorable game. Officially, it's unknown whether or not there were bounties in this game as well, but given the characters involved, it sure wouldn't be surprising if there were. When the dust settled from these 2 unusual games of football, an investigation was launched by the NFL to get to the bottom of the bounty allegations. However, the investigation found that there was no convincing evidence that Buddy Ryan placed bounties on anyone, and nothing more ever came of the Bounty Bowl, as far as the NFL was concerned. As far as players, coaches, and fans would go, it was far from over. Statements would be made for the next several decades. Easily the most interesting statement came from former Eagles linebacker at the time, Seth Joyner. In 2019, Joyner claimed that there was indeed a bounty on Luis Zendejas, and it was actually for $10,000, dwarfing what was initially reported, which was $200. However, the most important person involved never confessed to anything, and that was Buddy Ryan. To the day he died, Buddy always denied placing a bounty on any Cowboys players back in 1989. Regardless of what's actually true, the Bounty Bowl remains one of the most infamous pieces of NFL lore. Despite being over 3 decades old, it's still one of, if not the most important things in the history of the Eagles-Cowboys rivalry. It even overshadows some playoff games between the two teams. For these reasons, it's important to make sure the story of the NFL's original bounty scandal continues to be shared with the younger generation, to remind them exactly how much the game of football has changed, and also to explain why Dallas and Philadelphia continue to be such bitter foes. That's going to do it for the video, everybody. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, please follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitch, and please consider supporting me on Patreon. All of the links will be in the description. Until next time, I'm Ramen Robbie, and thanks for watching.